our government, its infinite wisdom, in '62, there was a treaty where our government said we will not have combat troops in Cambodia or Laos. And the North Vietnamese, being the honorable communist dogs that they were, they just ignored that. And in fact, when our government entered that agreement, they never signed a formal document, I'm told, but we agreed not to send or have American combat troops in Laos or Cambodia. The NVA, the North Vietnamese Army, had already been coming down the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which is, you have Vietnam like this. Vietnam to the west would be Cambodia, and Laos up north. So this would be Vietnam here, and then Laos and Cambodia. And so from Hanoi, they would send down supplies, it would come down the trail, and then it would come into South Vietnam, all through here. And our job was to go in and see what they're doing. In '64, they established the Military Assistance Command Vietnam Studies and Observations Group, AKA SOG. And we put together missions that would vary from size for recon teams. And the recon teams would be 2 or 3 Green Berets with their indigenous troops. That could be Nungs, South Vietnamese, Montagnards, or some Cambodians, not a lot. And what? Cham? Yeah, I can't even say it right, but thank you, Doc. And so when I landed in Vietnam, which was 50 years ago from today, we did in-country training, myself, Tony Harrell, Johnny McIntyre. We landed after going through training group, and we had in-country training. Then we went north, and at the end of the in-country training, a sergeant comes out and goes, "We got a project. Do we have any volunteers?" And so Johnny McIntyre goes, "Well, what are we volunteering for?" He goes, "Can't tell you if you want to volunteer." Well, of course, that's MacVSOG. So we volunteered, went to Da Nang, and we'd been going to classes for so long that they brought us over to a building of the CNC headquarters. We all sat down, we pulled out our pads and pencils, and some sergeant major came out and said, "Put those away." And there was a piece of paper there. It said, "If you're going to volunteer for this project, sign the paper, and then we'll talk about it." And that paper, when you sign it, you agree not to talk about the secret war or anything for 20 years. If you do, you'll be federally prosecuted. And just as a little quick sidebar, after I got home from Vietnam, about 20, 25 years after I came home, my dad came by and said, "You know, why did those people come by and pick up our trash?" They were serious about top secret. And there was a very tall black dude who would come by. My dad got to recognize him. He came by, regularly picked up the trash to make sure that I wasn't writing anything home about the secret war. That's how serious they were. Anyways, myself, Johnny McIntyre, we land at FOB 1. We get off the helicopter. A recon team gets on and disappears. Don't be arguing with me now, because he was there. Anyways, the recon team was Spike Team Idaho with Glenn Lane, Robert Owen, and 4 indigenous troops. They disappeared. They're never heard from again. That was my introduction to the secret war. A couple days later, DeTroll, Mike Tucker, and Perry. And Steve Perry went on a bright light. They got shot up. Everybody was wounded. One of their South Vietnamese was killed, had to leave him behind, and they had an intense firefight trying to find what happened to Idaho. But that was our introduction to the secret war. And so the secret war went from '64 to '72. Thereafter, we had some other advisors that were there. And it turns out that the secret war was the deadliest of all combat across the fence. There's 100% or greater casualties amongst the Green Berets that went across the fence into Prairie Fire was the code name for Laos. Daniel Boone was the targets in Cambodia. And how that would happen would be the Green Berets would either be killed or wounded. We had one Howard, Sergeant Howard, who received 8 Purple Hearts. He should have had 11. He refused 3. And he later won the medal. He was not won. He was a recipient of the Medal of Honor for a mission in the Prairie Fire in Laos in 1968. And that was the serious nature of the war. We had, by the time we landed in FOB-1, we had 3 or 4 teams that had either disappeared completely or were wiped out, or one team, everybody was killed except for the team leader, John Allen from Alabama, who E&E'd for a week and was able to escape and come back. And that was the long and short of it. Now, as we go across the fence, we had no conventional units to support us, no Marines, no Army. We had the best Air Force in the world. We had Army gunships, and we also had the SPADs. Did we say SPADs? Airborne! We loved our A's. Of course, back then, we didn't know better. So, by the way, you SF guys, be careful. We're in SPAD country now. Do not say A1E.
Have you learned that?
I learned it, man. He's been kicking my butt so bad on that. It turns out an A1E is a 2-seater version of the Skyraider. So we always called them A1Es because we're just ground pounders. And from our end, when that plane flew, we were at the gun run, we could just see the bottom of it. We could never see the pilots, not very often. So it turns out the H model is the one we loved, or the D model, whatever it was. But
Whichever one was there.
right, whichever one worked. But we got to love those particularly, and one of the reasons why we're here is to talk about our appreciation for what they did for us. Because, and the odd thing about the whole war, we would get into a world of shit. I don't want to say shit with all these ladies here, but excuse me, ladies. And we'd get into a world, and then they would come save our bacon. We had the gunships that would come, and you know, one classic mission was October 5th, 1968. We had a Recon team that went in. It was a 9-man team. They had an inexperienced team leader. The team leader walked them into an ambush, which was an L-shaped ambush where it was like a rise to the right, and he walked them down a trail, and it was a rise like an L-shape. Well, the NVA, North Vietnamese Army, heard the helicopters drop them off. They had enough time to get that ambush set up, and when they walked into the ambush, a point man and the team leader was killed, another team member was wounded, and that began a series of firefights for the entire day, where by the end, we lost 1 King Bee, 1 Jolly Green Giant, the gunships were shot up, the SPADs took many hits, and one of the SPAD pilots that day, Don Deneen, ran how many sorties? Just one. But this battle went on, and at one point, we had a gunship that came in from the muskets, and they were low on ammo, and the team had killed so many people that they began to stack up the dead bodies. And they were behind the dead bodies every time there'd be a new charge. When they ran out of the bullets of their own, they took the weapons and ammo from the dead, from the enemy soldiers. And at one point, there was another charge coming, and the helicopter came down and hovered in front of the team, opened up with its miniguns, and mowed down hundreds of NVA that were charging towards the team. He left, and in fact, this is a tough moment. Today, that pilot is being buried. Dan Cook, the code name, the executioner. They had 2 pilots, the judge and the executioner. They were attached to our unit for a year. They flew support for us. We got to know each other on a first name basis, and on that day for Lynn Black, they came above and beyond. 2 days later, our team had been on the ground, engaged for 4 hours, and they came out twice with 2 separate sorties. And the last sortie, they came by so close, we had a King Bee hovering, and we were moving to the target, to the helicopter to get extracted. And they were so close, it was the first time I had shell casings land in the back of my neck and burn my neck. That's how close the support came. And just to get it back for a little footnote on Lynn Black's mission, 20 years later, America went back for the team leader who was killed. And they couldn't find him, and Lynn Black got a phone call. from the general. He said, "Hi, I ambushed you October 5th." He was the commanding officer of the unit that ambushed his team. They chatted for a little while, and then finally, the general goes, "Who was the American with the radio on his back?" Because when the team walked into the ambush, everybody went down except for Lynn, because Lynn had a previous tour of duty with the 173rd. He just turned around and started shooting the NVA. They were up on that ridge line. And when I interviewed Lynn, he goes, "I remember some of these guys getting hit and they would spin around and I'd shoot them a second time." Well, the general goes, "You shot me 3 times. Yeah, because Lynn was there and says, "Yeah, you were the guy carrying the radio. You shot me 3 times, and the worst thing about it was I was lying on the ground watching you kill my men. I couldn't do anything about it." Well, they chatted a little bit longer. The bottom line was, Lynn goes, "That's a bad day for us. We lost 3 people out there." And then the general goes, "Well, I got news for you. You inflicted 90% casualties on us." Lynn goes, "Well, we saw a flag. We assumed it was a battalion, 3,000 guys." And they go, "No, that was the division headquarters. You inflicted 90% casualties that day." So the Air Force, our SPADs, and the team had inflicted those kind of casualties. Those are the kind of odds that we came up against in the field. When we were extracted, in our case, we were always under fire. The only question was how much fire that we would come up against. So that is the long and the short of it. We had several men, I don't have the exact number, of men that received the Medal of Honor, Green Berets that were in the Secret War. The last one that was awarded was October 23rd, 2017 at the White House. President Trump awarded the Medal of Honor to Gary Michael Rose, who was a medic on Operation Tailwind, which we'll be talking about a little more detail later. But Doc Padgett's here, and you're the only guy here from our team at that time. Doc was a medic on the chase ship, and he got shot down twice. And he's part of the living legend from that mission. And they have an iconic photograph of the old CH-53 Delta model with guys on the ladder. The guy at the top of the ladder is Doc after they got shot down. So that's the quick introduction to SOG. And we, the Recon guys that are here today, we got quite a few here. Can we just do a quick introduction?
Sure.
We got Lou DeSeta, who just came in from Delaware, literally. George Hunt. And then we got Tim Kirk. Very good. And Ray Frovarp, he ran a little Recon. And who else is in the back? Am I missing anybody back here?